topic. And I believe we also have some new COVID testing information. So I think Deputy Mayor Maurice Kemp is also on the call, or our testing czar, who can help out with questions on that. So go ahead and start raising your hands for questions and stand by, and then we'll go ahead and get started now with Mayor Gimenez's message today. Good afternoon, Mayor.
Good afternoon, Patty, and good afternoon, everybody. I have a couple of short announcements, then I'll take your questions. We're rolling out more pop-up COVID-19 testing sites this week. One will be outside the Salvation Army at 911 West Flagler Street starting Wednesday. Another will be at the Ronald L. Book Athletic Stadium at 2555 Northeast 151st Street in North Miami starting Thursday. These mobile sites will open from 8 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock at night, and anyone age 12 or older can be tested. Minors must be accompanied by a parent or guardian. For appointments, check miamidade.gov/coronavirus and click on testing. We have a lot of testing going on right now, and we continue to expand throughout the county to reach our underserved communities, which are at the higher risk of complications from COVID-19. Surge teams continue to reach residents in hotspots areas around the county. They have visited about 130,000 homes so far to distribute masks, hand sanitizers, and testing site information. We're very focused on getting the word out so everyone in Miami-Dade County continues to wear a face covering, practices social distancing, and washes their hand often. Because we know that if we do those three things, especially in multi-generational homes, we can bring down the positivity rate of this virus and start to reopen our economy again. We're already seeing a steady drop in improving numbers in our positivity rate. Hospital admissions, 14-day positivity rate is about 12%. But we need to get way under the 10% positivity benchmark based on the CDC and medical experts' advice before we start to reopen more businesses. So everybody, do your part, and we can move forward together. Now I'll say a few words in Spanish before taking your questions. Buenas tardes a todos. Tengo un par de anuncios cortos. Estamos abriendo más sitios de pruebas esta semana. Uno estará afuera de las oficinas del Salvation Army en el 911 West Flagler Street a partir del miércoles. El otro sitio será en un estadio en la 25 Avenida de la 151 calle del Northwest en North Miami. Abre este jueves. Estos sitios móviles estarán abiertos de 8 a 8 y cualquier persona de 12 años o más puede hacerse la prueba. Los menores deben de ser acompañados por sus padres o tutor legal. Para citas, vaya a miamidade.gov/coronavirus y haga clic en prueba. Tenemos muchas pruebas en marcha en este momento. Estamos enfocados en comunidades con mayor riesgo de complicaciones de COVID-19. Los equipos de Surge continúan llegando a los residentes en los hotspots donde hay más contagio. Ya han visitado más de 130,000 hogares para distribuir máscaras, desinfectantes de manos y darles información sobre el virus y donde se pueden hacer las pruebas gratis. Recuerden, todo el mundo debe usar una máscara, practicar la distancia social y lavarse las manos a menudo. Si hacemos esas tres cosas, podemos reducir la tasa de positividad de este virus y empezar a rebajar las personas que están en los hospitales y también empezar a abrir la economía. Ya estamos viendo una mejora en esos números. Estamos a un 12% y bajando en la positividad. Eso es muy buena noticia, pero no vamos a hacer ningún cambio hasta que nos pongamos muy por debajo de los 10%. Eso es basado en los datos de los expertos médicos. Así que, por favor, ponga de su parte y gracias. So now, Patty, I'll take your first questions.
Thank you so much, Mayor. And folks, remember, go ahead and start raising your hands if you have questions. Para los de habla hispana, por favor, levanten la mano virtual para ir llamándolos para que hagan sus preguntas del alcalde. Let's go ahead and get started with Luis Castro from CBS4. Luis.
Hi, good afternoon. I might have some of my colleagues on here as well. They might have questions. Just have questions regarding the dead fish and the coronavirus. How and why did this get to this point, and what needs to be done to fix the problem regarding the dead fish in Biscayne Bay? What plans does Miami-Dade County have to prevent this from happening again? And the other question I have State of Florida reported its lowest numbers for COVID-19. Where does Miami-Dade compare to this? Like, where are we right now?
Well, Miami-Dade continues, to be the number one spot in the state of Florida, but our numbers are coming down. And so, 3-4 weeks ago, our positivity rate was way over 20%, now hovering around 12%. Hospitalizations were up around 2,300. They're now about 1,200, 1,300. So it's about 1,000 fewer patients in the hospital today than there were 3 or 4 weeks ago. And those numbers continue to come down. And so while the state continues to come down, we're also coming down. We're a little bit behind them because we're a much bigger urban area than the rest of the state. And so these numbers are improving. And with that, we hope to start beginning the process again to look at how we can reopen some of those businesses that are closed, especially the restaurants and some of those gathering places. And so we hope to, get into a new normal, full new normal, sooner rather than later. So the trends are good. We just have to continue to be vigilant. We have to continue to keep our masks on, keep our social distancing, and wash our hands. And in regards to Biscayne Bay, it's this is a compilation of certain factors. It's the water temperature, and which is high. The oxygen levels in that part of the bay are low, and so we've had a fish kill. How to prevent that in the future is we will have a report on the status of the state of the bay, and the bay is not one uniform area. The southern bay is doing a lot better than certain other parts of the bay. We're a little bit more closed off. If you notice that part of the bay, it's shallow. It also doesn't circulate as well as the southern bay, and so you'll have problems with that. And so there's a report out on it, and there's measures that are going to have to be taken, but those measures aren't going to happen overnight. And so if the conditions replicate themselves in the near future, you may have, more fish kills. But Lee Hefty from Durham is here, and he can answer that question in a little bit greater detail. So Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And that's true. This particular phenomenon was caused by low dissolved oxygen levels. We were working with the state of Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission and DEP evaluating it. It was not related to any toxic algae. It really seems to be high temperature and low dissolved oxygen. And what we're looking at is water quality throughout the basin and up into the watershed to see what water quality inputs are coming in from the Little River, looking at potential nutrient sources to see what may be the actual cause and see what action needs to be taken to minimize water quality impacts.
Thank you so much. I see Doug Johnson with a raised hand. Doug, I'm not sure we've met, so if you would identify what news agency you're with.
Actually, it's Ted Skelton with CBS4. I'm with Doug.
Okay.
Hello. Mayor, just again, if you or the gentleman from Durham can just kind of reiterate what are the steps that need to be taken going forward. I know there's going to be a report, but what are the things that need to be done so we don't have a problem like this again? Could it be with filtration or things like that?
Well, I talked about that today with Durham, and one of the things we have to somehow look and see how we can recirculate the water better in that area. The reasons why the Southern Bay is doing so much better than the Northern Bay is that it's much more open and the water circulates. That means that the water temperature remains, much cooler. That portion of the bay is pretty well enclosed. It's also shallow. Large portions of it are shallow, and so it's not a simple solution to it. We also need to look at what nutrients are actually being the runoff that's coming from rain from the mainland. It's dumping into that area that's causing some of the problems. I know the seagrasses have also basically disappeared from that area, and that's very important to filter a lot of the nutrients out of the water. And so this is not something that you can snap your fingers and say, gee, it's never going to happen again. It'll happen again, and the solutions aren't something that you can do overnight. So again, Lee, if you have anything to add, please do.
No, Mr. Mayor, that's a great explanation. It's one of those things that for a number of years, that basin has done fine. I've been with Durham for myself 30 years. I've seen that basin full of seagrass. In more recent years, it's had some challenges where there's been a decline in seagrasses. So what we're looking at is changes in water quality and what we need to do to make sure that stormwater runoff and any other nutrient inputs are minimized and reduced so that we shift the ecology back to a seagrass-based solution.
Thank you very much. Let's go now to Alyssa from NBC6.
Hi, Mr. Mayor. Thanks so much. So as we're seeing some of the numbers drop and we're seeing that Miami is getting into a better position, are there any discussions about next steps in terms of maybe relaxing some of the rules that we've made a little bit tighter, or reopening even more industries?
Well, there's always discussion about that, but last week, Mayor Suarez and I had discussions with Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx from the White House. And also, I have had discussions with our local medical experts that have been advising me the whole time. They are advising to, stay steady because the numbers are still aren't where we want to be. I mean, they're heading in that direction, but they're not where we want to be. Look, we have a whole range of plans on all these industries. There's nothing that we need to reinvent. That's already been done. That book has been written. So once we get to certain points here where our positivity rate is down and our hospitalization rates are down, then we can start to reopen. What we would do a little different is really accentuate that, hey, this thing is not over, and that we need to wear our masks, and that we need to keep our social distance, and we need to wash our hands. Some of the information we're also getting is from the White House and from our local experts is that there is an expected second surge in the fall. And the lower that we can get our numbers right now, then the lower that second surge will be. And so we want to be cautious. We understand, and believe me, I do. I want to open up the economy as quickly as anybody else, and I know that people are hurting. But we don't want to be, we don't want to rush into something, and then all of a sudden, back in the fall, find ourselves in a situation that we're just coming out of right now. And so, it's a tricky situation. It's a delicate one. We want to get our numbers down before we start to reopen, but we have plans already to reopen.
Thank you very much. Doug Hanks, Miami Herald.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Can you share some more details on the Fauci meeting that was by Zoom with just the two mayors, you and Mayor Suarez, or a lot of mayors? And
no, it was just Mayor Suarez and I, and it was also a member. I think he had one member of his staff. I had some of my deputy mayors were also on the call, and we've had a weekly phone meeting. It's not a Zoom meeting; it's a phone meeting with Dr. Birx and Dr. Fauci, and also the Surgeon General. They have a particular interest in Miami-Dade, and I'm sure they're calling around the nation. It's about once a week we do that, and we get their information. They want to hear what's happening down here, and then we get their advice. And their advice pretty much mirrors the advice that I'm getting from my medical experts here in Miami-Dade. But the trend is good, and we just want to continue that trend and keep it down. So the faster we get to where we want to get to, the faster then we can then reopen the economy and other aspects of our life.
They recommend the 5% threshold for indoor dining?
Yeah, they do. They recommend that we get as low as possible because they are also anticipating a second surge sometime in the fall. So, and they say the lower that you get your number, then the lower that second surge will be. And so we need to get somewhere around 5%, and then be very strict, stay very strict with our mask guidelines and social distancing, et cetera, before we open up those more riskier activities of our society.
Thank you, Mayor. Let's go now to Veronica Zaragovia with WLRN. Veronica.
Thank you so much. This question could be for you, Mayor Gimenez, or for Mr. Kemp about testing. I was wondering, what is the company that does the rapid testing, and is that what enabling you to do more testing? Like, are you focusing on the rapid test and the sites that you mentioned, or is it the PCR test?
I think that's a combination of PCR, but I know there's also some rapid testing going on with the antigen test. So, Deputy Mayor Kemp, can you elaborate on that?
Yes, sir. The new sites will be the PCR test, which right now is the gold standard. As the mayor indicated, there's antigen testing going on at Marlin Stadium and Hard Rock Stadium, and we're working with the state to bring more antigen testing to Miami-Dade County. We're also looking at some tests that are being trialed locally, and the idea is to get the best antigen test to bring it to our site.
Thank you. And is it possible to know the company, just to know who's providing the rapid testing, or it's the antigen test, or it's different depending on the site?
We're looking at the product that the state brought to Hard Rock and Marlin Stadium, and we're also looking at a product that the doctors at JMH are looking at right now. They're actually doing some tests right now to confirm the accuracy of these tests. So the mayor has directed us to look for the best test, but not to deliberate too long. We will bring more antigen testing to Miami-Dade County.
Yep, Jackson and UM are also looking at a 15-minute PCR test that we're really interested in. And so that's being tested right now as we speak.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to you both. Let's move on now to Natalie Moreira. I believe she's with Local 10, right, Natalie? Natalie, Local 10 News Desk. I don't know if she's having trouble unmuting. Okay, let us go over now to Spanish while we wait for her to come back on there. Alejandro Isturiz from Telemundo 51. Adelante, Alejandro, con tu pregunta.
Gracias, Pari. Alcalde, esta mañana en una presentación que hicieron la candidata Daniela Levin Cava, la congresista Devin Carcel Powell y el senador José Javier Rodríguez, fueron, digamos que, bastante críticos un poco hacia usted y hacia el condado, por lo que ellos dijeron, la falta de acción para haber evitado la muerte de peces en la Bahía Biscayne, sobre políticas que no se implementaron oportunamente, de acuerdo a las recomendaciones. ¿Qué usted tiene para responder a el alcalde?
Todo que pasa y sucede, el tiempo de la política, todo se va a criticar. Ya expliqué por qué pasó, tenemos un reporte, pero esto, para las medidas para evitar eso en el futuro van a tomar tiempo. Y entonces eso es la temperatura y también la falta de oxígeno. Así que eso es normal para la señora Debbie Merkel Powell, siempre critica, no hace nada, pero critica. Y también es lamentable que Daniela Levin Cava hizo lo mismo, porque ella sabe lo que está sucediendo aquí.
¿Está bien, Alejandro? ¿Listo?
Tenía alguna interferencia cuando el alcalde respondía. No voy a pedirle, por supuesto, que me responda de nuevo. Tenía alguna interferencia, pero más allá de los tiempos políticos, que los comprendo perfectamente, estamos en época de elecciones. Sí. Me gustaría que si me puede definir el alcalde un tanto en pocos segundos su preocupación sobre esto que está sucediendo, porque afecta no solo al ecosistema, sino también a los residentes, ¿no?, de aquí cercanos a la bahía, por el tema de la posible contaminación.
No, la posible contaminación es que, mira, en el sur de la bahía está en buenas condiciones porque tiene más circulación por el mar. En esa parte de la bahía está bastante cerrada y eso es lo que sucedió. La temperatura estaba subiendo porque hemos tenido mucho calor en las últimas semanas. Bajó el nivel de oxígeno en el agua porque la temperatura estaba subiendo. Así que eso es lo que resultó. No es un tipo de algae, no fue nada así. Es algo diferente, es algo que puede pasar a vez en cuando, pero también para resolver ese problema en el futuro se tiene que mejorar lo que es la circulación en esa parte de la bahía. Eso viene en un reporte. Ahora tienen medidas que podemos hacer nosotros, los seres humanos, no tener cómo podemos limpiar cuando hay lluvia, en vez de toda esa lluvia, llevar ciertas cosas a la bahía, en cómo se puede limpiar, pero todas esas medidas van a tomar un poquitico de tiempo. Eso no se puede resolver en 2 días.
Gracias, alcalde.
Gracias.
Brian Enton with WGN.
Mayor, we've seen the fireboats spraying their hoses. Has that helped the situation on the bay?
We don't know. So that's something that Durham is going to have to. They're taking measurements right now to see if it's actually helping. And so, Lee, if you can comment on the fireboats and all. I mean, it's a way to aerate the water and put more oxygen in the water. That seems to be the problem. So, Lee, can you comment on that?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So our folks were out today. Our staff scientists were out surveying the bay bottom, looking at seagrass resources and also collecting measurements. We still have very low levels of dissolved oxygen in the basin. And unfortunately, right now, because we did have that fish die off at the beginning of last week, some of those, that biomass is going to be decomposing now. We've looked, it's not really accumulating in any area that's easy to get to, but as it decomposes, it's going to cause some additional oxygen demand. So there'll be a bit of time for the basin to recover. Having the fireboats out there is one way to help oxygenate the water by spraying it up into the air, increasing the surface area exposure of the water to air. We haven't measured a change yet, but every little bit can potentially help.
Thank you very much. Javier Díaz Machado, is that Noticias 23?
Hola, sí, buenas tardes. ¿Qué tal? Saludos. Alcalde, buenas tardes. Mi pregunta sería si ustedes tienen alguna fecha ya pensada para cuando los restaurantes y pequeños negocios pudieran regresar a la normalidad y si están pensando también en algún tipo de plan de ayuda económica para evitar que negocios sigan cerrando sus puertas ante esta amenaza.
Bueno, nosotros tenemos un plan para los restaurantes de $30 millones en el condado de Miami-Dade. Vayan a las páginas de Miami-Dade en lo que es coronavirus. Y ahí hay todo tipo de ayuda, no solamente para los restaurantes, pero también los empleados del restaurante. Así que son millones y millones de dólares para ellos. Tienen que aplicar. Así que hay ayuda para ellos, sí. Pero el día, de tener un día que es cierto que vamos a abrir ese día, eso todo depende en cómo baja el nivel de contagio aquí en el condado de Miami-Dade. Yo no tengo una bola de cristal para decir cuándo va a ser ese día. Espero que va a ser más pronto, lo más pronto posible. Si seguimos en este mismo paso, espero que en semanas deberemos empezar a abrir, pero no te puedo decir si va a ser 10 días, 15 días, 14 días. Eso no lo puedo decir. Todo depende de los números.
Okay, muchas gracias, alcalde. I have a question from Channel 7, and I know that they are apparently trying to ask it, but they can't come on. So they're asking if you can give any details about your morning conversation with Governor DeSantis.
Yeah, we spoke this morning with the governor, and he's very encouraged by the numbers that we have, and he sees the trend going down just like we do. We talked about what we can do, our measures, et cetera, that we need to take, and how we're going to reopen. We don't have a set date, and he didn't say, "Gee, I want you to reopen by tomorrow." So we don't have a set date. He understands that, and it all depends on the numbers, and he understands that this area is going to lag behind the rest of the state because our numbers are higher because we're a denser area. It's different down here, and so. It's good conversation, always good to talk to the governor. He's been a great friend and ally and has always given us everything that we've needed down here in terms of supplies and people and medicine. So I'm always grateful to talk to the governor, and we're pretty much on the same page.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Any other questions from anyone for the mayor or for any of the other experts on the call?
Can I ask one question? Sorry, Mayor. Thanks. Can you clarify, do you still think 5% is the appropriate threshold for reopening dining rooms? And also, can you talk about the scooters? Why aren't the scooters back on the road?
The who?
The scooters, exactly. The scooters, one of the first things that you restricted.
The scooters are on the road because the multiple people touching the same scooter at the same time. And so we're working on a way to get them open, especially the ones that can be docked and maybe have somebody there to disinfect the scooters. So we're working on that, but the scooter, the problem with the scooters is that there are multiple people touching the scooter, and they would you let them go wherever you stop, that's where they stop, and then somebody else can pick it up. And there's no procedure to clean them, and then you're touching the same handlebar that somebody else was, and you can pick up the virus from that. So that was the problem with the scooters and all that. So, but we're working on a solution for that. And
on that though, are people wiping down the handrail for Metro Rail or wiping down bus benches?
No, they're not. And so we do. Okay.
We do.
But again, that's something that we need to caution people against. Hey, that we want you to sit down. That's why we also limit the number of people that are on the buses. So there is no standing room anymore. You just sit down. But yes, we would encourage folks. We have sanitizers, et cetera. So when you come in and when you leave, you can sanitize your hands, but on the scooter, it's a different issue because you can leave them in the middle of the street. You can't guarantee that there's a hand sanitizer right there. That's a little different issue. And so we're trying to work a solution for them, but it's it's problematic.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, last call for questions, English or Spanish?
Yes, Natalie from Local 10.
Hi, Natalie.
Can you hear me this time? Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Hi. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. You talked about the Biscayne Bay report that you've seen it. When will that be released to the public?
No, I was just briefed on it today, as a matter of fact. So
You were
I
briefed
haven't
on it?
seen it. Yeah, I was briefed on it. I haven't seen it. So we expect that report to be issued prior to the next commission meeting and for the next commission meeting. So shortly that report will be issued. I think there's 2 reports that are going to come out on Biscayne Bay. One that's been in the works for quite a while. And so Lee, you know how many reports and when will they be done? I mean, I just got briefed today.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor. So one of them is a Biscayne Bay report card that is finished at this point, and it's I'll take the heat for that one. It's a complicated thing to develop a report card for Biscayne Bay, and our agency has been working on it for the last couple of years. That report is done. It's ready to go to the board. The other report is a report from the Biscayne Bay Task Force. That was a task force that the Board of County Commissioners created, and some county officials, myself and Jim Murley, the resilience officer, were members of this committee, the Biscayne Bay Task Force. There were 9 people, most people from outside the county organization. We have recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners on how we might focus more attention on Biscayne Bay going forward. That report is also ready to go to the board.
And I want to reiterate that all that and the attention that we're paying at Biscayne Bay started under my administration. And so for those that are criticizing that we haven't done much, we've done more for Biscayne Bay than probably any other administration before me. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Any
Thank you,
other
Mayor.
questions before we wrap up? Okay, I think that'll do it, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it,
Thank you.
everybody. Y'all have a good one. Thank you.
You too.